You know what we're going to do to get the air into the turbocharger? Not this. I thought I was going to use it, but it's not going to happen. Well, I had to change gears. Well, it's like anything. When you start to figure things out, you know, that was the initial part that I was going to use to do this. It's just not going to work, you know? And so I went into, like normal, into my bucket of like, you know, air intake boots or turbo boots. And I come up with this. This right here is, I have no idea what it came off of. There's no part numbers on it, so I can't give you the part numbers. I assume this came off like a GM turbo diesel or something like that. Possibly, it could be a Ford, but I have no idea what this thing came off of, but I have it. And the big thing is, you see this section right here? That is the same size as the intake for the GT28. It doesn't need to be that size. It should be that size. So it'll make my life a whole lot easier. All right, well, what am I going to do? Well, I want to use the original filter. I want to make it look somewhat like a motorsport part or possibly a part that was built back then. So this is the initial port. This is what's going to go on the turbocharger. Get me there. Now, let me show you what I have on the bench that I'm going to use. I'm going to try and use it. You know, it's like always, this is like a shot in the dark, but I think if it works out, it's going to be pretty cool. All right, let me bring you over here to the bench and change the camera and show you that. Here is the original CIS unit, the one I used to show you what the return line was. What we have to do is we have to get a template right here to see this is going to be our end point, because we want to fit in the exact same piece of real estate that we have in the car. And I wanted to figure out, and I looked all around to figure out how I could make something that looked pretty cool, you know, because just like people look at it going, geez, was that a motorsport part? Was that intended to be there or not? I mean, you know, I'm trying. So what it is we have to go from the turbocharger, this is the diameter of the inlet of the turbocharger, to this diameter where it necks down, because this is more than enough to feed the amount of air going into that motor. So what I have first is a super thin wall aluminum tubing, very thin. So I have the biggest diameter inside. I have a little bit bigger tubing that would be a little bit tighter fit for this, but it's such a thick piece of tubing, the diameter is actually smaller on the inside. And I'd much rather have this. At the very worst, I'll put a ring around it, you know, as a clamp. But you have to remember, it's not under pressure, it's under vacuum. There's the pipe we're going to cut up. Now we're going to have to use this, you know, piece of cardboard, make a template, and just cut up a piece of just flat aluminum to put on there, so it'll bolt down to the actual housing. That's pretty basic. What are we going to put on top to raise it up so this pipe meets into it instead of making instead of slicing it at 45 degrees and bring an angle right down? I thought this would be kind of cool. I went out to the shed and found this. And you're probably saying, what the hell is that? This is the heat shield off a 9120 valve Quattro. The normally aspirated version. This is the one with a cast iron manifold, not the bag of snakes. What it is that, look at all the ridges. And I'm sitting there going, and I measured the height from this base, not from here, but from here to the top. And it's almost exactly where I want it to be, as where this tube will have no kinks in the rubber tube and go straight in, and I'll give me plenty of room for the intercooler as it's sitting down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this thing up and make this into the top hat of this air filter assembly. I think it's going to look kind of cool, but only time will tell. So first things first, I'm going to get all this stuff. I got to put a template on that, and let's go downstairs because I got to put on all my gear and start slicing this thing up. You know what? Wish me luck. All right, let's go downstairs and cut this thing up, and let's see if we can make something that looks cool. Here's our template. What we have is something that we can use to go find a plate. We need to, I have a feeling, I think I know where there's one I can use that's big enough for this. and that we can cut it up and make something like this. We can make that fit this. And this is the K&N filter that's in the car, you know. I believe it's a rabbit. That's not what I thought it was, but, you know, pretty basic stuff. This is what I found. What it is an old battery box. This thing came out of an old Mercury that I basically destroyed. We beat the living snot out of the thing. But yeah, it was a good learning experience. What I got to do is take this template, and I'm looking around going, all right, well, can I do it right here, right here? Okay, no. Go over here. Oh, I think this is the side that I'm going to have to be able to do it on. And this, do I do this side? Oh, that side too. I can do this side right here. I can either use this, or I can either use right here. No problem. Right there, no problem, you know. Or right here. I think I might cut this side, just because this has already been chopped up. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Well, that's the rough airbox right there. I gotta do a lot of fine tuning, but I'm kind of happy with the way it is because it's gonna look, I think it's gonna look pretty cool. Only thing I'm doing right now is I gotta tack this thing to in its rough position. Just a couple tacks here and there. Make sure I can get at my bolts, and a lot of it is going to be, you know, ground off and stuff like that. But I need to get up there I need to have this fully tacked in, you know, so it doesn't move. So when I go upstairs, I can put the pipe or figure out where this pipe is going to go, and then I can block off the other one. See, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to come out of this housing, but I will figure it out. But I need to get this thing roughly squared away, you know, and there's going to be a lot more grinding and a lot more cutting, but I'm pretty happy with the way it looks because it looks kind of, it looks old school, you know, I like it. I didn't clean all of it up because I'll probably sandblast it later, but what I want to do is just get the edges clean so when I tack it, I can sit there and go, oh, okay, well, I need to do this, need to do that. Oh, I got to cut this. Yeah, it's just small stuff. Okay, let me go clean up the welding bench. Let me see what I can, if I can get this done. Alright, that's a couple of tacks on this. I am going to let this cool down. We'll bring it upstairs and we'll see about the top plate. The intake pipe's here. I clamped it down tight as far as it will go onto the turbocharger. Housing's in. I have a dowel pin here and another bolt acting as a dowel pin over there, so it gives me pretty much its rough estimate of where it is. This pipe right here is about an inch above the top of this housing. Yeah, it's about an inch above it, so which means it's about 3/4 of an inch where the pipe is going to be sticking up. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to use the pipe that I was originally going to use, that thin wall piping. I'm going to use that thick wall piping, the same stuff I used to cut with the intercooler and the intake manifold, the bungs for the O-rings. And I think that'll work out good. And what will happen is it's so thick I can actually blend off of it, and it'll go onto this. But first things first, I'm going to go cut a piece of that pipe. How much do I need to cut is... looks like I need to cut about 4.5 inches, because from the edge right here all the way to where the bend starts is 4.5 inches. It'll give me leeway room back and forth, and then I am going to mark where I'm going to slice this out, see exactly where it's supposed to be, and then I can go down and tack it, bring it back, see if it's good, and continue with that. So, well, it's yeah, it's looking pretty cool, and I'll probably thin out the bottom portion too. But all right, let me go cut a piece of pipe, and I will bring it back, get a little bit better reference, and then I'm going to mark it, bring this down, and cut that. Here's the initial cut. Here's the sectioning or hogging out of this. What it is, I had this, and I spared you the 15, 10, 15, maybe even 20 times back up and down to do this, because I don't have the welder next to the car. So I can't tack it and then, you know, fix it all up. It's gonna fit pretty much just like that. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. What I have to do now, bring it back up there, mark it with a magic mark, or put a marker on it, tack it really strong, because this is a very tight fit. When I pull it off, I don't want it to break. I'm going to tack it on the top and on one on the side here, so it gives it support. So when I pull this thing off, or put it back on, then pull it off, I think it should be okay, and it won't snap. But yeah, let me go mark it, and we can get this thing tacked up, and let's see what the initial airbox will look like. Well, there it is. What I gotta do now is make it pretty, which is the hard part. But this is where it is. It's far enough down because you know the throttle bodies come up, the intercooler comes up, and the intercooler comes down here. All right, now I gotta bring this back down to the bench. I gotta get rid of this and close up all the holes, and then try and bring this thing from here down into there, be a smooth transition. But I'll blast it all out and see how it looks in the end. Well, there it is. It is bloody hot. You can see the steam come off when you touch it. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is for dirt castings, or for dirty castings, but I sandblasted it off camera, all the places where I was going to do it, and what I want to do is I'm going to let this cool, and then we'll cut out the bottom of it, start hogging out, you know, flowing it all, and then go install it, or at least look at it installed. Yep, it's late too. But I wanted to get it done. I don't think it looks that bad. You know, little coat of black paint, I think it'll be really good. All right. Yeah, I'll let it cool down, and we will get to the rest of it tomorrow. Well, here's the finished product. Yeah, I didn't clean this up. I didn't clean the inside of that up. But yeah, it's, you know what? I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, when I put paint on it, it'll look a lot better. And I put, you remember I had the hole right here? I put this tab right here, figuring, you know what? I might add something there. But the problem is I should have put this afterwards because I could barely get the TIG torch in here. And the welds don't look that great. But other than that, it came out. As you saw, I was filing this thing flat. I think I got it really close, you know. It's really, really close. The only problem is when I put this is the bottom for the, underneath it for the air cleaner. I put it like that and I saw like, there's little air gaps in it. It's like, what's going on? I didn't make this flat enough? Well, I took the ruler over here and put it right on this, and oh yeah, this thing isn't flat. So don't use this as your gauge. use a machinist ruler. But I do think I like the way it came out though, because it's really period, you know, and it's aluminum. I mean, yes, I got to put it in I have to sandblast the rest of it, or I have to get a flat wheel or something to go through this thing. But one of the things I did, you see where I built up a lot of weld right here on the intake tube? Well, it's the exact same thing I did on the intake manifold. I don't know if you can see it. Right in there, I cut into that weld. And what I did is I tried to increase the flow as much as I could by cutting into that excess weld. So this is not the, this is not the tube down there and a bunch of weld. This is the weld and it's been chewed into. So it's probably the same thickness as this plate, maybe a little bit more. But I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I look at it going, that almost looks period. Of course, my welds and I have to clean everything up and paint it and all that stuff. But I still think just the actual, if you look at the actual design, the ribs, the aluminum, all that stuff, that almost looks like something from the Group B era. Almost. Hey, I'm going with it. Well, we have one last thing to do. It's the last sensor that we have to put in the car. All right, let me go get the stuff, bring it down, and I'm going to show you what I need to do. Here is my thrown together exhaust and some paperwork. What it is, this is the exhaust I built for it. And what I did was I just took a 914 muffler that I had kicking around. I shortened it. I put this pipe into here so the exhaust gases wrap around and then do the baffles and then come out. Did it quiet it down? Oh yeah. This thing had a devil exhaust on it. It was this is so much quieter, and it's actually it's tolerable to drive. The other one was just so booming that I hated it. But the thing is, what we have to do, you see this right here. This is just a standard flange used for a turbo back in the day. What I have to do is put this on it. This right here is a V-band clamp that I have on that GT28. I have to put this right here and bring this down, and then I have to make how can I put this? I'm going to probably take this off. I have to have a flex pipe on here just so it allows it to move around, because the V-bands don't, but I'll go into that later. The first problem we have will be oxygen sensor installation. I'm going to put this up. First thing is, the oxygen sensor has to be between 15 degrees, what was it? Yeah, 15 degrees off of vertical to no more than, let's see, what was it? Acceptable range 10 degrees off of completely horizontal. From what I've been reading, when you do these applications, is that if you go straight up and down like this, it overheats. If it goes anything further than past 90 degrees or where that says, what happens, water gets into it and destroys the oxygen sensor. And these are just some extra pipes I had kicking around. So another thing is, we have to do a minimum of 6 inches from the turbo. And this is going to be barely 6 inches, right about there. I was kind of hoping to go like this, but I actually have to measure it. And because if I can measure it and the turbo would be like 6 inches from here, it would be really good, because that way it's, I'm not sure if they say it from the actual wastegate or from the actual impellers of the turbo. If it's from the impellers of the turbo, this should work. If it's from the actual V-band clamp on the turbo, this is going to have to work like that. And we're running out of space down here, because I got to take this off and put in a flex joint. I'll show you a reason why. We'll go upstairs and I'll go through that. But the first thing I want to do is I want to cut this off first. Cut that off so we can actually try and figure out. I put this on in order for it to easily, you can easily get it up, because I have a rubber mount on the side chassis, not the bottom other mount that you have for this thing. But I'll go through that later. Yeah, all right, let me cut this off. Then I'm going to bring this up and try and figure out where exactly we need to get the V-band clamp all set up, get this thing all welded up, and get this thing on. Yeah, more things. Here's the V-band clamp right here. Here's where my elbow, where it'll shoot right down into this. This right here, this is all made up. There's a mount right here, I'll show you here in just a bit, that goes right there. But when I did this, I didn't have a piece of steel long enough to mount it, so I just used an alternator bracket to come over here. But we're going to start this one by one. First things first, we have to solve this problem right here. And you're probably going to say, why is this a problem? It seals correctly. Yes, it does, but it is solid. This thing is, when this is all welded, and this is solid. There's no movement in this. Let me bring you over and show you the original turbocharger. Here's a turbocharger for the R5. Standard T3, nothing fantastic. You know, there is different components inside the cold side, but other than that, from this way back, it's pretty much standard. I put the flange back on it, and also I put the springs and nuts on it. And you're probably saying, springs and nuts? Well, you have to have stress relief on this exhaust system. You can't have it bolted all together, you know, just clamped as one solid piece, because you got to have movement, you know, like for just going down roads and vibration and all that stuff. You got to have some movement in the system, and you have to have, you know, just from heat expansion and contraction, you have to have it. Because if you don't, when everything's hard mounted together, guess what? You know, you have an exhaust system, even though it's only a couple feet long, that puts an awful lot of stress on this cast iron when it gets hot. Possibly could crack, possibly not. It could also, you know, crack the flanges on the turbo header. Could do anything. So we're going to take this step by step. First step is we got to have a place that we have stress relief on this flange, because the V-band clamps have no stress relief. It's a solid mounted item. That's what it appears to me. But what I got to do is make stress relief and put the oxygen sensor in and make a curve to get there. And we'll do this step at a time. First things first, let's put the oxygen sensor. I want to get it set up so we can put the oxygen sensor in there, tack that in, and see if it fits. And then we're gonna continue moving down to put stress relief in it, then put the mounts in it, and make sure everything's in, and we can work with it. All right. Let's bring over here. Let me show you the first problem that we're going to have is putting the oxygen sensor in. Here we have the V-band clamp. Here's the angle to basically put it down into the muffler. We have to fit this, the oxygen sensor. From here to here is the 6 inches, but we're going to run into the problem of where we're going to have to cut this pipe off right here to give us room to work. But there's also another big problem. Let me show you. Here is the bottom part of the trunk. I mean, I am like really close. And the problem is that I'm going to have to put the oxygen sensor in here. I can't show you because there's no room. When it goes down like this, you can see this right here. Here is the room that we have to work with right there. And it goes down. So what I'm going to have to do now is to pull this off, cut this right here, and then figure out where this is, put an oxygen sensor in there with a wire, and turn it and find out where it doesn't hit that heat shield. Let me take this off, and I will bring that down, cut it, then we can work to try and get the oxygen sensor in there, turn it to exactly where we want it, how we're going to get it, and see if it works. It's really tight. I mean, I wish I could show you, because even I can't see it. So, all right, let me pull this back off, and I will bring this thing down and cut this off, and we'll start working with this. These are the springs that they use to mount the exhaust with. Well, that's where it fits. And this was the only thing that was actually tight. Now, if I turn it around like this, I think it's going to be really good. Let me go. I have to go get the tape measure to make sure, but if I turn around like that, that's 90. That's 10 degrees. So that should work right there. I think I am going to go tack this and see what's going on with it. And after that, I'm going to trying to really make it work. Because if this works, I'll be laughing my ass off. So, but Yeah, this is 90 degrees right here. That's more than 10. I think that'll work. Well, it needs to be cut and brought down just a little bit. The exhaust is in. What I want to do now is I want to make the mounts for the exhaust. I think this is coming out pretty nice, especially with the O2 sensor bung right there. I really like it. But I want to make it exactly like the parts diagram, where the mounting bolt goes right in here, where the two springs are down here, and it supports the bottom or the base of the muffler. Now I want to have it on the other side of the flex pipe to give this as much freedom of movement as I can with this flex pipe. I don't want this to right there and have, any issues of it being too rigid. So I want to put it on the other side of this. Now, I went down to the pile and went looking through my junk, all my old mounts and everything, trying to match something up, and this is what I found. You're probably saying, well, what is that? Well, you have this and this style, this size of mounting point, it looks like it's from a seat. It has an H on it. That's not typically German, so I assume this is from a Subaru. I would assume it's from a Legacy that I broke, but I don't know. It's probably from something like that. But you're probably saying, well, why did you pick something like that? Well, take a look at this. You see the indentation in the size of that hole? Here. This right here is the original mount. This goes right here. This cup and spring go right there. If you take a look with this Subaru thing, it looks like it was supposed to be there. So I'm sitting there going, all right, well, I'm just going to cut this mount out to make it look right so I can put it onto this. What I'm going to do now is I have to mark. Let me put this off. I have to start trimming this thing off like this so I can bring it over here, figure out exactly where the mount is going to be, and then make the mount. That's pretty much it. Let me first go down. I got to cut this off at a diagonal, and then I'm going to bring it back up. We'll mount it up permanent, and then we'll mark to see exactly where we're going to have this thing put on. Then, after that, I'm going to continue. I'm just going to do the mount on the bottom that I showed you before to the bottom muffler. I'm just going to make it final. That's it. That way I can start pushing the rest of the stuff on. But let me run down and cut that up so we can get this properly set. Before I go any further, when you put your exhaust on, put this back on. This right here is just a louvered valence in the back that the R5s have. Mine didn't come with it. I assume a lot of them, some do, some don't, but I assume a lot of them, they're gone, And I got this one through GBS Alpine. I think it's like $160, something like that is what it was. It worked out to be. I think it was. I can't remember. But what it is, you want to keep your muffler there, place it right directly in the center, and then mark your mount and weld it. And what I'm going to use for the mount onto the muffler is this. See this? This is a capture nut. See how big and square that is? This thing, as you can tell by the white paint, it came out either a Mark III, 4, or 5 Jetta. I assume it's a Mark V, just by the way the paint feels. And these things are great because it just saves you a ton of time. The big thing is getting this thing all squared away, and then you have to make them out, so you have to cut the metal, you have to drill the metal, you have to put the nut on the back, and you have to weld it. And usually the nuts on the back are not going to be this thick and this robust. So that's the reason why I really like cutting off all these mounts, throwing them in a box, and if I use one, I use one, I don't, but geez, they're there, and it saves you, It takes you 2 seconds to cut these things off. It takes you an hour and a half to build one. That's what it just seems to work out to be. Yeah, at least in my case. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt this onto the existing mount because there was already a hole. Use that, mark it, go down, tack it, come back up, start fitting it, and then at the end, weld it, and I'll show you that. And then we'll get the last mount down here. After the 20th trip up and down. Jeez. First things first, I just want to show you, before I put it back in and end the episode, I want to show you exactly what I did. Here's the mount. Okay. I created more of a stiffening structure right there, because it was flat right here. What I did was I just sliced it, put it down, welded it. This right here, I cut a section out right there, and I bent it this way. Why was that? That is so I can get a ratchet and a socket on that nut and out fast. I could have done it the other. I could have, kept it straight and, just used the wrench to get it out. But I want to have the ability to get the thing out fast. So that's the reason why I did that. Here's the exhaust. It's all welded up. Not the greatest welds, but yeah, they're okay. The main thing is I have an oxygen sensor. I have a flex pipe, so it gives some stress relief. And I have the mount that goes on the transmission after that stress relief point. Whether or not it'll do it better or not is all up to you. But what I did, here is the capture nut right here with that plate. I just put another plate on the bottom, and I just put it out and set it in so you can get the ratchet in there and all that stuff, because it had to be swung out. Also, I just did another capture nut on the bottom of the muffler. Did that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, the ruffle's not the greatest shape in the world, but hey, listen, it's sealed. That's all I care about. And it'll be quiet, because I know it'll be quiet. I'm going to put this back on there. I got to put a couple other things on there. We're going to end up the episode. It's all back in. All right, I want to show you something that's pretty cool. Here, come take a look. Check that out. Do you think that air intake looks like it's supposed to be there? I think it does. And it misses the intercooler. And there's the pressure regulator and filter. And it all goes. I mean, that's cool. So, right in the middle. All right, oxygen sensor's in. With this oxygen sensor in, that means every single sensor that I need to convert this to EFI is in the car. Everything. Even then some, because the fuel pressure sensor I want in here, and oxygen sensor I want, and the air intake temperature sensor is going to be here, throttle position sensor, injectors, all that stuff is all here. So I'm really happy about that, with the crank sensor. And that means that I have everything here that I can do to make a wire harness. So it's all set up. And it's just like, yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. I am really, and especially with the air intake system and all that, I think it's pretty cool. Now, parts on order that I still haven't got is the pressure lines for the fuel system and the ECU, or the parts for the ECU. And I've ordered the ECU the parts for the ECU about a week ago, and they still haven't even shipped them. So, yeah, if it's a long time, it's a long time. Yeah, whatever. I did find out what parts I'm going to have to order pretty soon. Poking around down there with the fuel pumps, every single line down there is hard as a rock. It's 40 years old. It is what it is. So I got to replace every single line down there. It's all really easy. It's just standard line, but I'll replace all of it new, and I gotta, do the injectors, because I have no idea what they are. So I'm just gonna order a set of 37-pound injectors. That's more than enough it's gonna be, because it said 250 horsepower, and that's as much as I'll ever want in this motor. Other than that, I mean, I think we have everything set up to start doing the small stuff. The small stuff, besides the wiring harness, and when I mean the wiring harness, I mean, it's going to have, the wiring harness with the alternator plug and hooking up all of the stuff that goes to the gauges, and that's what I consider wiring harness, but not beyond that of the ECU. Oh, I also have, the hard thing is going to be the idle switch, the fast idle switch. I'm not sure if my idea is going to work, but I got to get the ECU to see if I can, make it work. If it does, I'm going to do it that way. If not, I got to probably make some holes and do some extra vacuum tubes. I don't know if I can put them into the throttle bodies or not. I'm not that far. And when I figure out how I'm going to do the idle, that's when I'm going to do the throttle cable and all the other small stuff. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time to do it because you got to be careful. You don't want to break things, and you want to make sure there's nothing. How can I put this? Nothing in the way, so it's going to like have an open throttle situation. But other than that, everything I think it's all looking pretty cool. Looking really nice. And yeah, I mean, I dig the exhaust. And if anybody asks you, hey, what do you have for that exhaust? Zero, except for weld and and the V-band clamp that I have here, because the pipe for the oxygen sensor came off a 2-liter Jetta that I broke for parts. The flex pipe came off a Passat that I broke for parts, and the muffler came off a 914 that I broke for parts. Get a theory here? Not a theory, a pattern. But other than that, I think it's all looking pretty neat, And there's a lot of small stuff that I have to do, but it's pretty much all there. I'm digging all of it. Yeah. So other than that, remember, you can do any of this, all of it, no problem. If some hillbilly out here in New Hampshire can build this, well, goddamn it, you can build it too. Trust me, I am nothing special. So, all right, pretty happy. It's looking pretty cool. So thanks very much for showing up. I really appreciate it. Hey, there's your roadmap to building an EFI system. And the next thing, I'm not sure what the next thing will be, but it's going to be something. I do not know. I'll find out when I get there. All right. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate you showing up. I hope you have a great day. Bye now.